Hello and welcome to the St. Louis Online. I'm Pete Smith, co-chairman of the 40th National Narrow Gauge Convention Planning Committee. The video you are about to watch is part of a series of clinics and layout tours presented as a virtual but slimmed down version of our narrow gauge convention, which had to be canceled due to the coronavirus. We thank all of our presenters for their support and for allowing us to share their work with you. Our thanks also to Russ Segner, Robin Peel, and Burr Stewart for producing this series. For more information on this video and others, go to our website at 40nngc.com. We hope you enjoy the program that follows. Next one layout is John Kalin's layout, and you're probably asking yourself, well, where's John? Well, of late, John has been dealing with a lot of family health issues, and which has made his time rather short and unpredictable. And the other big thing is that when you mention internet or computers, John's eyes glaze over. So he is not really comfortable doing this sort of thing, but he's very comfortable in having someone else do it on his behalf. So therefore, you're going to have to put up with me. We put this PowerPoint presentation together about John's layout, and John wishes you all well. So let me get this thing going. Well, John models the Rio Grande Southern, and that's been his favorite railroad ever since he got into narrow gauge modeling. So almost 30 some odd years ago. In fact, he started modeling in the narrow gauge in the mid to late 70s. This layout we're going to look at today is his second layout. His first layout was started in the 70s. Then in around the early 90s, he tore that out, saving only Ophir, and built the new layout. The reason he tore it down was he originally built the layout rather willy-nilly. He built a little bit of everything he liked about the Rio Grande, but there was no particular order to it. So if he wanted to operate, and so what he did is he came up with a general concept and a plan to do this that had some logic, some prototypical logic to it. So what he settled on was a layout that depicts the RGS between Ridgeway and Rico. Recall that the Rio Grande is a north-south railroad, and Ridgeway being the northern end, and Rico being not the southern end, but the point where he models up to, and it eventually goes down to Durango. And so he modeled this portion plus a branch line to Telluride and Pandora, which is a big mining area. His era is 1938 to 42, and the whole purpose of his railroad is to receive the ore from the many various mines up in Pandora via tramways primarily, where it was run through mills in a concentrate, and then the concentrate was moved by boxcar, of all things, down through Telluride into Vance Junction, where the trains were turned, and headed south down to Durango for further processing in the smelters. John's railroad can be run point to point or continuous. He's got a way to turn trains at either end. So this looks like a very busy chart, and just bear with me and we'll walk you through it. It's not that complicated. If you can see my cursor here, this is the way you enter John's room. And on the right, you will see Pandora and all the mining district up here. And on the left, the immediate left, is Ophir. And so this area in here is a furnace enclosure, which you can walk around. And then as you enter the room further, you come into a long area, and on your right is Telluride. On your left is Vance Junction. This peninsula is Ilium. And then back here out of Ophir, this line here is the High Line up to Lizard Head with the turning track here at Lizard Head. And then down under this becomes Hidden Track here and goes down into Rico. And if you come through the other way, you end up in Ridgeway. So the hidden yards, which are actually underneath Telluride, play the role of both Rico and Ridgeway. Here are the numbers on John's layout. Pretty good sized room, good length of main line, and he's got some nice long runs. Minimum radius is 30 inches, kind of a stiff max grade, but not too bad. quite a difference in elevation. It's basically on the main part of the layout, 51 inches to 72 inches high. 72 would be lizard head, and the hidden track underneath Telluride is only 34 inches. John has about 15 to 16 trestles on his layout, most of which are built to the precise length and height of the originals found in the RGS. He powers the layout with CVP DCC, which is otherwise known as Easy DCC, the same thing I use. And motive power is K27s and C16s. And of course, John has been modeling in SN3 since the beginning. As you walk into his room, pass Pandora on your right and turn right, this is what you see. You're looking down the length of his room. On the right is Telluride. Below it are the hidden staging yards. At the far end to the left is Lizard Head up here. On the lower level, you have Vance Junction. Directly behind me would be the furnace room and a peninsula, which would be Ilium. Now, if you turned around and looked the other way, you would see Telluride now on your left, the hidden yards, and here's the High Line going down here with the 7 trestles along the High Line around to Ophir. And this is the line coming out of Telluride, would go behind me, come around at this lower level, and down through Vance Junction. No, excuse me. It comes down through here, around this peninsula, which is Ilium, around here, and then into Vance Junction. And then the train is reversed and goes down to Ophir and eventually to Rico and finally on to Durango. The furnace room and Pandora and the mines are around this corner. So let's start in Pandora and we'll work our way around the corner, taking a look at some of John's modeling work. And by the way, he made it very clear that he wants me to emphasize the fact that this layout is a product of many fine modelers, all for the most part members of the Friday Boomers, and he wanted to give all these guys their just recognition. So here's kind of a wide angle shot of Pandora, the town, and if you look all the way to the right and around the corner here will be all the tram houses receiving ore from the various mines. Back in here is Ophir. Now we'll start at the very end here, and here you see Raymond number 2 tipple. This particular building is a scratch-built building by Ken Ellers. Ken did a wonderful job on this. And next we have the bullion mine and mill. This building was originally designed by Tom Troughton, who the late Tom Troughton, and Bill Banda kind of liked the idea, and so he produced this in a kit. And what you see here is I believe Bill Banda's kit, and then John built it up and bashed it a little bit and created this additional building and the loading dock. So it's kind of a combination of several efforts. Here we see the Smugglers Union Mill, and John says there's over 1,400 pieces of corrugated metal covering this building. So that was quite a project. This is the Tomboy Tram House to the left. John likes little vignettes, and you'll see him throughout the layout. Here's some more scenes out of Pandora. And as you watch some of the pictures here, you'll see clusters or groves of aspen in the background. When we finish this little tutorial, I'll explain further on how John has created these groves of aspen. Okay, we move out of Pandora, and the next town we come to is Telluride. I might mention with this shot that all these backgrounds were, of course, painted by Greg Gray is. As is the case for most of the layouts in St. Louis area and Tulsa for that matter. The water tank, the station, a lot of these buildings John is named after various folks who have helped work on his layout. This is the Continental Oil Company, Telluride Provision Company, and this is the gas station, which was a kit produced by the Building and Structure Company, and now and John built this up and also decked it out with a whole lot of details, which is kind of nice. We had a hands-on clinic, and I forget where it was given, but John was showing this kit all built up and handed it to a guy, or I guess I handed it to a guy, and the guy dropped it on the floor in this hands-on clinic and just felt terrible. But it went back together all right, as you can see here. This kit here, Books Hardware and Feed, is a Bar Mills kit, I believe. And this Telluride passenger station was a special deal that he worked out with Bill Banta, who agreed to cut this building for him, but he never produced it as a kit. And this is the built-up version of it. A couple of buildings here by the Building and Structure Company. And then we take off out of Telluride, come down from the right and come around here, and then come out onto this peninsula into a lovely area that's kind of a flat grazing land with chickens and livestock and herds of sheep and a cattle yard over here, which is a interesting contrast to the rest of the layout, which tends to be very rocky and mountainous. Here's some of the details in that peninsula. These are the cattle pens. You can see Telluride in the background. That's John's bald head there. And the cattle pens again. And of course, this is the Y at Ilium. And the Y was here so that trains coming out of Telluride and into Vance Junction could be turned. They had to be turned if they were going to go back to Telluride for another load or Pandora. And they also had to be turned if they were going to continue on with that train down to Durango through Rico. And so they used this Y. Next, we come to Vance Junction, and here we are right now. You can see in the background here, this is the High Line coming out of Ophir with 7 different trestles on it, going down here to Lizard Head. This is this station, I think, was I can't remember who did this station. It was a kit. This is a Crystal River, I think, coal pocket. And if you went north out of Vance Junction, you'd see trestle 42A, which we are not going to do because right up here it disappears into the hidden yards and goes to Ridgeway. But anyway, that's trestle 42A. So let's turn around and head out south out of Vance Junction, where we come to the Ames tank, the water tank. And in the foreground is the Ames trestle. And then we proceed out of Ames and come heading towards Ophir, and we come upon the butterfly trestle and the butterfly mill or tram house, excuse me. And that's the butterfly tram. A couple of additional trestles there. And once we leave the butterfly tram, we enter Ophir, which was the original from his original layout, and that was the only portion that was saved. And this starts with, I believe this is 45A. I'm not an RGS expert. This is trestle 45A, and I mentioned all or most of the trestles on his layout are the actual length, actual height of the trestle that on the RGS, the prototype. This particular trestle, I am told, is 7 foot 3 inches and 3 inches long. It is a monster. It was done with a panorama camera, and it it makes the trestle look curved, which it is not. Here's a better shot of the trestle. It's really an eye catcher, and it's the first thing you see on the left when you walk in the room. We leave the trestle, come around to the station. This station, by the way, is an old kit that PBL produced years and years ago in urethane. And this is a scratch-built, was it Skillins, I think, the store, and the various other stores that you find in Ophir. And this is 45B, leaving Ophir. Again, more scenery by Greg Gray. And then we start heading on the High Line. And there are 7 trestles on the High Line, and we start with 46A, move on to 46B, and 46C, and 46D, that's the big one. And here you see Ames tank down below. And this is 46E. And the last and final trestle on the way to Lizard Head is 46F, and which gets us to Lizard Head. And at Lizard Head, we have the snow shed that encloses the turning Y at Lizard Head, the section house at Lizard Head, the pop car house. And then from here, the train rounds the bend, or the track rounds the bend and disappears into the hidden yards for the layout. Now, I mentioned earlier that John had a lot of groves of aspen, and he had a unique way of doing this. And let me just go through and kind of explain what it was. What he'd do is he'd take a piece of chicken wire and he'd cut it out in the basic shape of the grove that he wanted. And then he'd insert 2 pieces of coat hanger that were clipped off to the appropriate length that would support this piece of chicken wire. And they were, of course, pre-painted with white and with little black markings on them to make them look like trunks. And they would have a little S-bend in the top that the chicken wire would sit on. And then he would load up the top of this chicken wire with, first of all, then he'd poke twigs and dowels and so forth that were pre-painted as trunks through the chicken wire with dabs of glue on the bottom, so they stick on the bottom and be supported by the chicken wire and create the illusion of individual trees. And then on the top, he would drop in lichen, but basically the remnants of a box of super trees, if you recall the super trees, that were pre-colored and so forth. And they would provide the canopy on top. And then he'd surround the outside with a few real super trees. And so we probably only had to do, you know, an eighth of the number of trees that would have been required, individual trees, had he planted that many individual trees. So most of these trees are simply trunks that are sticking through chicken wire and being glued to the base and being held in place by the chicken wire. Same case with this one, and the same case with this grove. This grove, you don't see as many trunks, get a little bit closer to the ground. It's also set further back on the railroad. So that is a quick run through of John Kalin's layout. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope I did it justice. Here we go.
I always thought that John's handling of the grove of aspen was one of the most creative things ever done, and incredibly effective.
Yeah, a big time saver too, just a big time saver. I thought that was kind of a neat system. I remember I bought a big box of those super trees too, you know, and you take all these guys out, you can only use about a third of them because they're so crooked, and you try and straighten them out, but you get a lot of debris down there. And that's what he used to cover the top of the canopy.
Yep. So we had quite a few comments on the chat. Was you not surprised, Pete, to John about the outstanding feeling, of course, the trestles, but especially the photography that was taken there was outstanding. So that, again, just like Bob Lenz's layout, I think the photography there and the wide angle shots, they really captured the feel of it. You know, I visited John's layout a few times, and I think you really captured that there. So thank you for doing that. I guess one question I haven't seen any other questions on the chat yet, was does John operate the layout? And if he does, using what process? Is there a dispatcher? Do you use cars or switch lists? Does he have an operating plan?
Not really. His big intent was operations, and we really haven't done a lot of operations. To be quite frank about it, most of the St. Louis modelers are just that, modelers. As Bob Lenz was saying, that we tend to like to build structures and do scenery and make rocks and rock molds, but we come up shy on the operations end. And John installed fast clocks. He's got them all around the fascia.
I saw that.
And I
Yes.
don't think, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever run an operation on his layout, have we? No.
No, never.
Yeah.
Huh.
We keep talking about it, but it never happened.
So I had an interesting question here from Tom O'Hara, which I guess is a real one. How do you keep the spider webs out of the trestles?
That's interesting. I've never asked him that because I've never seen a spider web there. So I presume he does it, or he's found a way to tame his spiders. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't
Well,
know.
it's that the question for anybody, right? How do you stop those irritating little threads over there? But the trestles are
Yeah.
kind of
And you always find them when you take a photograph, don't you? You don't see those
Absolutely.
guys until you take the photograph.
Yep. And there's lots of compliments on the layout and the photography, like great photographs, no dark spots anywhere. And I do know, Steve Hollenbach says he uses the Hoover HEPA vacuum. Yeah, that would take care of any loose pieces of wood as well, I guess, just get sucked
Indeed.
into the. I do remember when I walked into John's layout and you look to the left where Ilium is, there's actually a vast expanse, which is really, you don't often see. There's a big expanse there on the left, so you get a feeling of space looking towards Vance Junction, which
huge contrast when you see rocks and high walls all around you, and then you get this
and that
big
meadow
flat area. Yeah.
Yep.
Sheep grazing.
Bill Busaka, I guess what he's asking about, right? This is predictable. Does goose number 2 run now?
Bill, you asked me that about 5 days ago, and I passed that on to John. And I said, call Bill Busaka, and he has not done it apparently.
Okay. Well, tell him it's got a lifetime warranty, and John made me a really nice trestle, and we traded, so he gets a lifetime warranty on the goose.
So
God, how many things come with a lifetime warranty these days?
There's an APB. There's an APB out there for NAPFM goose drive units.
Bill Black in Australia wants to do some geese that run too.
Yep. Oh, and
patent. What? Sorry, Robin.
Oh no, hang on. Just Les Walker, a retired mud hen, is saying he's formerly from St. Louis, and is saying we're also fortunate to have Greg Ray to do such beautiful backdrops as you see here.
Yes.
And he's saying, I don't think he ever passed up the request to actually do a backdrop for someone. He's saying he's painted Tulsa as well as St. Louis, so that's pretty cool. I know from going to St. Louis that his proclivity out there was he's done a lot of painting. If you measure success by the square foot, he's got a large volume of backdrop he's painted.
He does indeed.
Yeah.
Excuse me for butting in, but the question about the PFM drive units for the shades or the whatever, has he tried Randy Lee at Grizzly Mountain Engineering in Colorado, Estes Park? You might, I don't know, pass that on. Randy's been a PFM dealer for many, many, many years.
This is, what was the...
Okay.
Randy Lee, so Bill Black was asking Bill Busaka earlier, just going a little bit off topic, but about PFM drive units for a goose. And the answer is Randy Lee at Grizzly Mountain Engineering may have that for Bill. So I'm not seeing any more questions on the chat unless I've missed anything. I'm seeing lots and lots of compliments for John. So please pass them on, particularly about the scenery, of course, the trestles and the photography. So thank you, Pete, for presenting that on his behalf. I think you did a great job, clearly knowledgeable about it.